rush girls bad, to be honest, because I've been hurt by so many. Even though I was hurting, these guys still were me. Not giving you a sob story here, I'm just telling you my life story.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We're at LS Fest. We are about to go out for practice. I'll show you guys around the pit a little later, but we are about to go out for practice. This drift comp has like 54 drivers, 56 drivers, something like that, and I am on the lower end of the horsepower spectrum, so we got that going for us. At the end of the day, so we have our first practice session, and then we have our official practice at 6, and then we have qualifying later tonight. It's gonna be tough for me to qualify, but we're gonna try our best. We're gonna have some fun, and we're gonna get in as many laps as we can. So we're gonna hope for the best, and that'll be that. So we are getting ready for practice here. We'll walk around the pit. I'll show you guys our setup a little later. I'm just trying to get through this practice session first, and then we should be good. I got Morgan. She is gonna be in the spotter tower today. So she'll be my eyes. They changed the track layout a little bit compared to last year. So they have they have the different zones. The zones are actually like squares this year. So instead of just like one sweeping zone through a turn, it's actually gonna be like 4 squares through the turn that you have to hit. And they knocked them off the wall a little bit, like 5 feet off the wall, because last year I think people were kind of struggling to get up to the wall, and Pat was saying it gets a little hairy when you're there. So we're gonna go out for practice. We're gonna go set up a hot pit, and I will check in with you guys afterwards. All right, guys, we are in our second practice session. I just went out and did the first lap, and I'm having clutch, I guess, engagement issues. So I left on the run up in first. Guy I was chasing makes a ton more power than me, but I'm in first, press the clutch in to shift into second, release the clutch pedal, stays on the floor. I slow, RPMs come down, shift into third, stays on the floor. RPMs come back, down, clutch pedal comes back, and by that point I'm entering on the bank and I have like no momentum. Totally screwed me up. So I'm like actually pretty frustrated right now because I didn't, goddamn. I'm just a little annoyed right now because like I just want to get some clean laps in, but like now the car's not going to cooperate. Come on. I don't know if it's the master cylinder that's dying. Probably the master. I mean, this car's had 2 sleeves put in it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think if it happens to me again here, I'm gonna go back to the pits. I'm gonna try changing the fluid. Somebody just crashed. I'm gonna try changing the fluid and maybe bleeding it, but I don't know. It's just frustrating right now because like we haven't gotten that many laps. We got 3 practice laps earlier in the first session, and then this session someone just crashed. I see the tow truck, the flatbed's going out. So I feel like this practice before qualifying is going to be like 2 laps per person. If we're lucky, I'll get a second lap, but then my clutch is going to give me issues. So for qualifying, I kind of just have to put something together that gets me around the track and that works, and we'll go from there. I don't know. Not looking too good. I mean, we'll go into more depth in a little bit when I wrap this up, but so practice, my next lap, the clutch issue happened to me once, but I short shifted, it happened mid-track. I short shifted on the run up and I just didn't have enough speed. So I parked the car and we waited till qualifying. Well, it's qualifying time and I'm gonna have clean air. We'll see what happens, but I mean, I have low hopes, but I at least want to go out there and see if I can put together a run. You know, I don't want to just not show up and call it quits. I at least want to try, but I don't know, just realistically, the cars that are here, I don't think we even have a chance with this car to make it into the top 32, even if I wasn't having clutch problems. So like, I don't know, I'm trying to remain positive about it, but it is a little discouraging. Like, how I've driven today makes me feel like I don't even know how to drift, you know what I mean? So, but then like, you know, the last private day at E-Town, I came off of that like, holy crap, this car's figured out, this car's sorted. But for some reason here, it's just one of those days where like, it's just not clicking, and like, the car is fighting me, and you know, I guess at the end of the day, that's part of racing. So, I wish this was a better video up until this point, but you know, it is what it is. I'm gonna hopefully lay down 2 runs that, 1, the clutch isn't giving me issues, and 3, I'm not understeering. I aired my rear tires up even more. I think between the toe-in and these Asinos, there are a couple times where if I'm not going fast enough, the car starts to push. So I need to maintain speed, and if I can't get the speed I need by the bank, by the first initiation on turn 1, it totally screws me up, because then I'm fighting understeer the whole rest of the way. So, all right, I'll check in with you guys after qualifying.
At the line now, Mike DeFusco. Have to correct some codes out there. Mike's coming to us from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in a Cadillac cts-v that does still have air conditioning, but this does have navigation work. You can use it to help navigate. Powered by LA, 400 horsepower. It's running Kenda tires. Sponsored by Stansco 404 Visco cold case radiators, grip oil, BC Racing. Find him at Mike_Stansco on Instagram. He said if he wins the first thing, what's he going to do is take Pat Good. Said he used to drive a rear-wheel drive converted Mitsubishi 3000 GT, so he definitely likes to drive uncommon drift vehicles. And as you can see out here with this Cadillac, Mike making his way through that first outer zone, kind of midline. I can see him much deeper, maybe playing it safe to get some points on the board. But with 50-plus driver, you don't want to play it too safe. Still running very midline through that second outside zone. Tapping the E-brake, trying to get the car where it needs to be. Now running nice and wide through that third and final outer zone, kind of coming in too shallow. Nonetheless, he did get a full pull. All right, here we go. Looks like we're going. Mike's going to make his way around the course for his second qualifying run. And here we go, rocketing down the straight. Bumper kind of hanging off, but that's fine. As he initiates into that first outside zone, looking a little more dialed this time around. Nice angle as he comes out of that first outside zone. Still a little shallow. Like to see him a little deeper as he makes that first transition into the second outer zone. Mike still a little shallow, but starting to really pour on the pallet. We see the smoke starting to come out of the back of that vehicle. Final transition in a third and final outer zone. Give it up for Mike DeFusco as he, oh man, unfortunately, I don't know, he almost got scared of that cone. He was like, I can't have the cone stay in the car. But straightening out towards the end could cost him.
All right, so LS Fest, we just made it back last night at like 11 o'clock, and I figure I'm gonna wrap the video up with just giving my overall thoughts and what happened at LS Fest for us this year. So, as you can see, we went through no tires. I brought 8 Zestinos to the track, and I went through not even one entire set, which is a little disappointing, but at the same time, I have a bunch of tires for when we go to Haunted Moves in October at E-Town. But I have new Kendas coming. I was fighting some understeering issues off the rip. And basically, these Zestinos are pretty grippy. And I was running them with too low of a pressure in the rear. And a couple times I was fighting to keep the car at angle. And I would not have enough speed in the bank. And then the front would just start pushing. And, you know, I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I was dropping pressures in the front and the Kendas were rolling over a little on the sidewalls, which is kind of a Kenda thing. But I was like, you know what? Pump these back tires up to like 50 PSI. And I did it right before qualifying. And then I was able to piece something together until the clutch issue arose. And then in that first qualifying run, I ate a cone. And I don't think it was this one. I think it was when I hit this one here. I ended up hitting it with the door, and you can kind of see the cone outline there. I think I hit it right there, and when I hit it, it sucked under this wheel and then got lodged somewhere up in there, and it took the guys forever to get it out. They had to bring out a jack because it ended up somewhere up in there. So then apparently I hit a cone with right here. You can see, let's see if I can get the right angle. You can kind of see the outline there, and that was a hard hit. So my bumper got pretty roughed up. My wrap got a little roughed up, but we'll actually be rewrapping this car in a few months. But the bumper got a little banged up, but whatever, that's okay. Hitting one of the cones right here was not a bad thing, especially because it was one of the green cones. But hitting it with right here was not a good thing. That means I was way too far off track, and I was kind of struggling to get a wide line. But so it, you know, the fact that I was able to finally get back that far, you know, I'll take it. It is what it is. But these tires still have life on them, which is kind of crazy. Like, it's a good thing, silver lining. Not too proud of it, but silver lining to the whole thing. So yeah, let's talk about the issues in the car. So pretty much what happened was, went out for the first practice session, and the car was too gripped up. First run, I went out and I was chasing Hurt, and Hurt spun in front of me, and I dodged him, and then I just lost all my momentum because between losing all my momentum on the run up to then have to come to a stop and then start drifting again, I couldn't get out where I had to go, and the rear tires being down too low and just the car being too hooked up for that power level and whatnot, I just couldn't get back into it. So that run was a wash. Second run was a good run. Morgan didn't record it. Morgan has a theory that when she's recording, something happens or I don't do as well. She wasn't recording the second run. Second run was a complete run. Cool. Third run, I go out and I'm leading, and I'm coming around the bank, and then the car starts pushing forward and understeering, and that was that. I got back into it afterwards, but whatever. So that was the first practice session. We got 3 laps. I was in line the whole time too. So then second practice session, which was the hour before qualifying, I go out, and this is where my clutch problem started. So my first lap, I'm chasing a S13 that makes at least double the horse, probably about double the horsepower of my car. And in my head, I'm like, I gotta do whatever I can to stick with this guy. So first, press the clutch in to shift into second. I'm right there with him. And when I pull my foot off the clutch, get back on throttle, hits rev limiter, clutch pedal sticks to the floor. Once the RPMs drop, clutch pedal pops back up. I get back into it, shift into third, same thing happens. By the time the clutch pedal pops back up and the clutch re-engages, I am going too slow on the bank and it's a wash. Second run, I tried short shifting it. I end up chasing the same guy. So I tried short shifting it, and I just shifting it a much lower RPM just to try and get into third so that I can run up and get to speed. It just didn't work. And I basically washed that last practice hour trying to figure out how to work around the issue and just band-aid it, you could say. So I got a little frustrated, which I feel like you could tell in my video that I was recording live there. I got a little frustrated. I was like, you know what? Pumping the crap out of these tires. I'm going out for qualifying. I go out for qualifying. First lap was my first lap on a looser setup, and it was okay. It wasn't great, you know, but that was like my first good lap, complete lap that I did all day. Second qualifying lap after the cone debacle. Second qualifying lap, I go and do the full lap. You can hear on the run up when I shift into third and let the clutch out, that pedal hold like gets stuck on the floor for a half a second because you can hear the car run up like I slipped the clutch. And that was the pedal just delaying coming back when I lifted my foot and was back on throttle. And then I do the whole run, and I think, you know, I saw some other guys' runs, and, you know, it was pretty on par with probably like a lower the pack, whatever. But I am in the last turn, about 10 feet from the finish line, and I clutch kicked, and the clutch pedal went to the floor, and it disengaged the clutch and never re-engaged. So I straightened out, got a 0 there, and that first run score wasn't anything to write home about, so we just didn't qualify at all. So, you know, it is what it is in that sense. You know, nothing I can do about it. We had a great time. You know, I was not expecting so many Formula Drift cars, Pro Spec cars, and Pro Am cars to be there. And for me to be in the very, very bottom of the barrel when it came to making horsepower. Frank, the cts-v drift car, makes probably around 400, but most cars were making, I would say, like 600 or more this weekend. And they were lighter, and they were full race cars, you know? Whereas the Drift V is a race car in its sense, but like it's still heavy. You know, we got to figure out some ways to lighten the car and, you know, give it my all. I wish I had some more practice time, and I wish I could have gotten my setup more dialed in prior to qualifying, because then maybe I would have done a little better. But it was a horsepower battle that I was probably ultimately going to end up losing in the top 32 anyways. The event as a whole was fantastic. It was a really fun event. I got to meet a lot of you guys, a lot of V1 owners, and it was just an overall great experience on Saturday. The weather finally cooled off, so we were just hanging out by the in the pits and chatting it up with people. I just want to give a shout out to Morgan for helping me, because she was hustling around. She was spotting for me. She was spotting for me, and then she was helping me during practice or qualifying with tire pressures and things. But then I also want to give a shout out to Nick Swan and Pat Gooden and the rest of the Holly Drift team. They did put on a great event. Everybody was super nice and in a good mood all day. You know, they were very helpful guys, and they were just like happy that you were there as a driver and happy that this whole thing was happening. The cruise in the Bowling Green was also pretty sick. A bunch of people from town came out, and that was a just overall good experience. Show off the cars and whatnot, and it was super fun. You know, we had a good time. LS Fest was fantastic. I need to fix my clutch problem. I think it's a master issue, so I think I need to upgrade my master to a Willwood master cylinder. UV1 guys know there's a guy out there by the name of Jason Baker that makes an adapter to put a Willwood master on your clutch so it pushes more fluid and it just works better. And I think I need to do that basically before we take the car back out, because I don't want to have to keep trying to not shift at high RPM and deal with these clutch pedal issues at the end of the day, because it's something that's out of my control. And I think that was the most frustrating thing, was that this is something that was out of my control this weekend. It wasn't tire pressures, it wasn't how I was driving, and it honestly, it made me feel like I didn't even know how to drift this car. So coming after the E-Town private day, when we tested the angle kit, I was feeling great, top of the world with this car. And then on Friday with this car at LS Fest, I was like, man, what am I doing here? Like, why did they let me come here? So either way, we're gonna try and stay positive about it, and on to the next one. We will be trying to get the car fixed, and I think we're gonna be taking it up for Haunted Moves at Club Loose in October, and then we'll see what we can get to between now and then. We do have a lot more, like we have some work travel plans, so September is gonna be a hectic month, but we're gonna try and make whatever we can happen. So thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.